approval of this?
Yeah, rolling the safe on.
Okay. I'll move. Okay.
Second.
Mr. Means, Ms. Grice? All right, roll call, please.
Mr. Meeks?
Yes.
Mr. Siebert?
Yes.
Mr. Renee?
Yes.
Mr. Haas?
Yes.
Mr. Rice?
Yes.
Okay, at this time, I need a motion for reading of the minutes, April 24th, 2018, regular meeting. So moved.
I'll
All
second.
right. Mr. Siebert and Ms. Journay. Caught me off guard there, Mr. Siebert. Yeah, you shocked me. I just said. Roll call, please.
Mr. Siebert?
Yes.
Mr. Renee?
Yes.
Mr. Haas?
Yes.
Mr. Rice?
Yes.
Mr. Meeks?
Yes. Okay, at this time, communications and/or visitors to the board.
Good evening. We're going to start tonight with a visitor. We have Sean Lofton with us tonight, and Sean's going to share a video that he created related to our high school one-to-one program.
So thank you, Mr. Connor. My name is Sean Lofton. I just graduated on Sunday. Through my school's career technical program, Digital Media Arts, we created a video promoting our laptops in classes, the One-to-One Initiative. This video was judged on a national level through the Business Professionals of America and placed third for virtual multimedia promotion. This video covers how the laptops have changed the scope of digital learning in the classroom from interviews with students, administrators, and teachers. I kind of talked about how we're transitioning from just paper pen to what does laptops and digital learning provide, as well as other lessons in digital citizenship. What does it mean to have your own device and internet responsibility? So the video will kind of talk a little bit about that. I'm looking for questions about what the one-on-one has provided for me as a student who's seen both traditional and digital learning. So with that, I can start.
Once a school district plagued by fiscal emergency, Little Miami has changed the course of opportunity with its one-to-one initiative. One-to-one meaning one device per pupil. Each student has received their own personal tablet and laptop to aid in the learning process. Students are able to take electronic notes, utilize the internet, and promote individuality through these new devices. The effort to transform outdated Little Miami classrooms into a digital haven has greatly impacted both students and teachers.
I found that having my laptop with me is very nice because I just have all my notes and worksheets on it, so I can just bring that home and everything I need is on that.
Students are using OneNote to take their notes, so you've got access to notes that they're taking anywhere and everywhere, kind of rich notes with pictures and graphics and links. I think it's really just kind of changed how they look at their information.
In a one-to-one setting, for every student to have their own device, the walls of the classroom no longer exist. The learning extends beyond the four walls inside of the classroom, extends beyond the time frame of just a period in a high school scheduled day.
Apart from influencing the way students learn, the one-to-one initiative has gone above and beyond in teaching digital citizenship.
We have students show up for advisory. It's about a half hour at the beginning of the school day, and they're learning directly on those topics: digital citizenship, how to behave online, making sure that they're not doing anything that they don't want to last forever online. And I think that has kind of created a really good conversation with our students.
I also think that after we leave, it's going to have a huge impact even for the classes that are coming up, as far as getting them prepared for a more digital age and getting them more comfortable and accustomed to using technology, whether that be taking notes with them, using them to understand lessons more thoroughly, and so on.
The digital revolution going on at Little Miami High is changing the way kids learn and behave online, not only during their time in high school, but beyond.
So the video really touched on. Digital learning, digital citizenship. One of my favorite things was the individuality through the laptops. Carrying around your own laptop is kind of a big deal. It's not something that a whole lot of students get to have. Maybe their families can't necessarily afford. So having your laptop with your own stickers on it was a phenomenal opportunity and really changed kind of the scope of the process. So, any questions about the video or what our particular experiences?
This is this connection with the Career Center, or is this just blowing?
For the video, since my freshman year, there's a course here, Digital Media Arts. It's a satellite program, meaning that I take it here in the high school. It's 2 bells a day, and it kind of mirrors the kind of curriculum at the Career Center. So for their Photoshop and like video production programs, I kind of do almost the same curriculum here. This allows me to take a lot of the AP courses that are offered here while still kind of learning these really cool skills that I could apply to my community.
Thank you, Sean. Next, Mrs. Morgan is going to give a little curriculum update regarding our focus for next year.
Good evening. I just wanted to give you a quick update on our curricular reviews that we have been doing. So, as you know, we've done a K-5 review with Math and Language Arts. We've done a 9-12 review 2 years ago with implementation this year with the digital resources and devices, one-to-one at the high school. And I think both of those reviews went very well with a really positive outcome with teachers and students both. Just having a more rigorous and a better education due to the resources. Our next step is at the junior high. So next year, I would like to begin the review at the junior high of their core curriculum, just like we did at the high school. I will involve the junior high teachers, just as we did. I'll model it just like the high school. At the end of next year, I will be bringing to you the decision or the proposal to adopt the new resources during the 1920 school year. I want to just go back to the high school for just a second. Greg and I were at the high school doing some presentations, and 2 teachers came in and they were talking to me about the benefit of Panther Power Up. And I said, you know what, could you just send me an email just kind of describing what you just said to me? And I want you to take a look at those. There are two teachers at the high school. It's Randy Gray and Mark Hegel. And the nice thing is about the 2 teachers that I'm highlighting here is one of the 2 of them has always been very technical or technology literate, I guess, and the other one not as much. And so you've got 2 perspectives of both of them finding Panther Power Up as a huge benefit to them and their students. So I'd like to just take the chance to read that real quick. I think it's important that we give our junior high folks that same opportunity to have that environment. As we go through the review next year, we'll be looking at technology as well. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm coming with one-to-one. It doesn't mean that I'm not coming with a recommendation to one-to-one. I don't know yet. I want to look at the building. I want to talk to the teachers, and I want to ask them what fits their building and their student population best. After we're finished with the junior high, the intermediate school will be next. So we have to go through all of the grade levels. We don't want to leave any out. So junior high I'm looking for next year, and then down the road after that, whether it's 2 years, 3 years, the intermediate school will be next. And to be honest, we'll be right back to elementary again, going through a cycle. So I just wanted to give you that update, and I'll be back in May asking for approval.
All right, thank you.
Next, I'd just like to update the board regarding the renovation of our board office location. We've been very busy the last week and a half. The business side is, they had some demo work to do there, and that work is complete, and all of the studding is up. Actually see floor plan taking shape. And then over on the public side, they still have probably another day and a half of demo work to do before they have that site prepped to begin construction on that site as well. Projected completion date for contract is by October the 15th. And then one other item related to the OFCC. They've been in to assess a few of our buildings, 3 of our buildings, and they'll be coming back into the district on May the 31st and June the 1st to finish up the facility assessment on our school buildings. we have a meeting scheduled with them at 11 o'clock on June 1st. And so we'll begin to take a look at that timeline, and it looks like in early November, we should have a plan that they will approve so that we get credit for what we do this time around. And also a little thing called a bond issue passed by 69 votes. And we're pretty excited about that. The certification of the election will occur this Thursday at 2 o'clock. And we'll hope that it gets certified.
Have you had any feedback from them on the provisionals?
I think there were 70 provisionals and 24 absentees.
Has anyone heard any?
I haven't really been able to find a breakdown or anything on that, on their website.
They don't, information is not updated. I don't think they reveal a final updated one.
To have they certified?
Right.
Okay.
I couldn't even find precinct information on their website, just not a totals. And that's all I have.
Okay, and also I would like to say, under this, we want to thank Mark for all your hard work. It's tremendous. We know ultimately the stakeholders are the ones that bring us across the line, but without somebody organizing it and getting the information out there, and I think you did an excellent job, and all the volunteers that helped, the staff and everybody was
Get a chance, Mark has some interesting late night stories about his adventures.
Yes, he does.
He's got a few new friends in the community.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Some of them are positive.
Yeah, some of them are positive. That's right, there's a couple. All right, at this time, community comments on agenda items.
Amanda Hollingsworth.
Amanda Hollingsworth, all right.
Oh, I'm sorry, no comments from me, I'm sorry. And Shannon Forlich.
No, so we thought it was signed in.
You guys signed in? I was
Talk about everyone.
No one else had signed in.
That was the contract.
Yeah, exactly, I was so excited.
I think you're going to fit right in there.
No, Lisa will remember you.
Yes. I like that.
Just don't run over any cats.
Make an entrance, there you go. Okay. Thank you, ladies. At this time, we'll entertain treasurer's reports and recommendations. Mr. Dunn?
Yes, under item A, financial reports, ask for the board's approval of the month ending April 2018 monthly financial report.
I'll move.
Ms. Grice? Second. Mr. Cummings?
Included in those reports is, of course, the bank reconciliation, your revenue ledger for the general operating fund, 2 different budgetary reports, and an individual fund that's under report for each fund for the district.
Okay. Questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Net?
Yes.
Mr. Haas?
Yes.
Mrs. Grice?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Seaver?
Yes.
Thank you. Next, I'd like to go over and ask for your approval of the May submission of the 5-year forecast as required by the Ohio Revised Code.
Mr. Nay? Second. Mr. Cummings? Okay.
As you see, I do presented in front of you. I have a hard copy, and also we have a copy up on the screen here. I'd like to go through and actually hit some highlights of it. This is the, like I said, the May submission of the 5-year forecast. It's required by law to be submitted both October and May during the fiscal year. Once again, this is a working document, it can always be changed. This is what we know as of now, as far as information. Can you go one more page, Regina? Thank you. But there's our executive summary, and what it is actually just a very simple, essentially income statement, revenues, expenditures, and ending fund balances. Just all kind of crammed together and not broken out between individual detailed lines, but just easy, something easy to look at in any fund balances. If you look through on this, couple things I just want to point out is that there's a slight difference between the October 17 forecast and now about a little over $500,000. Mainly that is to do with the building purchase and renovation costs. We're looking at fiscal year 18. We're looking at the end of this year having approximately 7 months of operating expenses in our fund balance. And our most recent information out from fiscal year 17 for expenditures per pupil, which we like to look at. We were in the bottom 17% of the state overall. Now, with that being said, if you look at that graph, or the statements up there, you can see that each year we're starting to eat into our fund balance. If you see the red on there, you can see the line that has the yellow highlighted. That's essentially your deficit or your surplus each year. You can see those are deficits each year. So as we go through, and I like to live out in 2022, unfortunately, but I have to think out where we're going. We start consuming the fund balance, and the reason this is being is we have constrained revenue growth. It's just revenue does not grow very fast. And unfortunately, and fortunately for our district, we are growing, and that also drives the expenditures. So once again, revenue can't keep up with the expenditures, and that's why you're seeing that essentially consumption of the overall fund balance at the end of each year. If you look at your fiscal year 22, at the end right there, you'll see a number of $1,036,754. It's the bottom number right on the right. That is without a levy renewal of the current emergency operating levy. With a straight renewal, just the way it is now, you would have a number above it, the $4,407,000. Just above it, that would be with the operating renewals. You can scroll up just a little bit. Yeah, it's the same information there in a bar graph, just with overall revenues, expenditures, and where we meet. And if you see the blue on the end there, actually to the right in fiscal year 22, that's actually the renewal levy. If we go to the next page. This is just the revenue overall. A couple things I want to point out on this. If you look at our 5-year average change of revenue, clear to the right, the bottom column there, we're just a little over 0.5% in growth. Like I said, revenue is very stagnant, very typical for all school districts, unfortunately. But that's just the way it works out for us. We do see a little bit of growth. Our real estate will be going up, so our taxes will go, not our taxes, but tax revenue will go up a little bit because we have 1.6 inside mills, and we can actually get growth of new construction and so on against 1.6 mills. So that'll give us a little bit of revenue growth on taxes. State funding is pretty much flatline. We have a budget currently for 2018 and 2019. The remaining fiscal years, 20, 21, and 22, the budget is not been created yet. There's some assumptions going along in this forecast, so as we get through one of the line items here, that the next budget will probably be very similar to how they fund schools now with the state share index and so on. Go to the next page under general property tax. As you can see, general property tax makes up about 56% last year, and roughly the same amount this year of our revenue. Our valuation for the district that we're collecting taxes on now is $891 million approximately, and we're currently in the middle of a triennial update this year for 2018. But overall, our economy is very stable, and there's a lot of growth. Unfortunately, we do not get a ton of new money when we have a ton of growth because of House Bill 920. It actually reduces the millage back on the revenue that was received when that was first voted in. So a lot of people think, well, the valuation is going away, our revenue pretty much stays the same, unfortunately. If you go to the next page on public utility and personal property, this is actually just another tax item. This goes in relation to the general property tax, so this is on the public utilities. It remains very constant throughout the forecast. The next page is income tax, which we do not have here online, so we can skip that one. This one here, unrestricted grants and aid. This is our state monies. This is money that's currently, in this fiscal year that we're getting ready to wrap up, fiscal year 18, we have a 5.5% cap, and what that means is we can only get 5.5% more than what we had the year before based on enrollment. If you have the maxed out enrollment, you could go up to 5.5%. It's a sliding scale. In fiscal year 19, it's going to be 6%. In this assumption, if you look at that graph there, you see the red bars, pass and go see 18, 19, 20, 21, and 22 are all very similar. At this point, like I said, we don't know what the budget's going to be. We don't know how they're going to fund it. So we're going to remain pretty much flatline at this point until we get further into the next fiscal year, and they'll start talking about another budget. And then the budget usually is approved actually in June, typically late June. It starts on July 1. So not a whole lot of notice up front for that. But one thing I did want to point out, though, is our state share index was 33.5%, and that means we get 33.5% of the state amount of a pupil. The state amount for a pupil in this current year was $6,010. Next year it's going to be $6,020. Now we get 33.5% of that, which is only $2,018. So out of 6,020 next year, we're projected to get 2,018. So we're roughly a third of the state fund.
No problems.
Got another $10.
That's our state funding, like I said, between state funding and tax revenue, makes up 25% of our general operating revenue. If you go to the next page, restricted grants and aid, it's a very small amount overall in our general operations. Remaining very flat, roughly 160-some thousand throughout the forecast.
When is the 2015?
We had 2 collections that year in the 1 year. The catastrophic cost, I believe it was, that came in, they had 2 in 1 fiscal year. But pretty much flatlined after that. If you go to the next slide, property tax allocation, and this is the homestead rollback off of property taxes. This is the discount that people get that the state reimburses. This also is in relation to actual property taxes received. So once again, very stable, going out throughout the rest of the forecast, and it matches both the matches the property tax rate that we looked at on the first one. If we go to the next one, there is some other operating revenue. Not a large amount of revenue overall to our overall budget. But this year we received a decent amount of tuition, both for regular and special education tuition. It's really the first year that we've seen that, so I'm not going to project that going into 1920 yet at this point. We want to see where we go next year. This money comes into the state, what they call SF-14s and SF-14Hs. It's like I said, it's a little bit higher this year. 17 was higher, that had TIF money the year before. If you see this year's 2017 and 18 together. The TIF money was gone in 17 and 18. The difference was made up by this tuition we're receiving, but that's varies every year. So I haven't seen a historical trend yet to say that we're going to get another 1.8 next year. So that's why we see it back down more to historical levels in 19, went up in 22. If you go to the next page, total other financing sources, we don't forget to have any of those. Go to the next one. This is expenditures. If you look at this here quickly, our 5-year average change over this forecast is 6.92%. This mainly is being driven by increasing enrollment. It's something that we try to manage, but you can only manage it so much, and with additional students comes additional expenditures. Go to the next page, personnel services, and this is usually where it shows. You hire new positions, go hit this line item. In fiscal year 18, we had 12 certified, 8 classified, and 1 exempted that were here. And actually, next year in fiscal year 19, we have 11 and a half certified positions and 1 classified and 2 exempt positions. So you can see the increase will lift from 18 to 19. And then we have some place orders for 20, 21, and 22, and only 4, 6, and 4 certified positions. Hopefully we'll slow down at some point here, but the enrollment keeps coming. We have to deal with the additional population. If you go to the next slide, 3.2, employees' benefits, of course, goes along with salaries. You can see it trending upward as much just like the personnel services line item. We had a little bit of an increase this year in 2018 over 17, and one of the big things we did was we changed the way we funded the health savings accounts. Those amounted into essentially about $500,000, but not in addition to what we had, but it's the timing. We did it in January, so they break it out over quarters and semi-annually between the 2 different organizations and employees. So just kind of push the expenditure up a little bit in January to be throughout the fiscal year, or excuse me, throughout the calendar year. If you go to the next slide, purchase services. This is where we see our open enrollment in community schools being deducted from our state revenue. And as you can see, it's pretty flat overall. If you look at the information there in the middle, our open enrollment numbers have gotten fairly flat. In fiscal year 16, we were losing about 1.3 million. We're just under 1.3 million in 17. We're just a hair over 1.3 million in 18. The community schools actually gone down a little bit. We were at 846,000 back in 16. Like I said, this is money coming out of the state revenue that they deduct. And in 17, we had 640,000 down to about 570 for 18. So that's been dropping a little bit, but the open enrollment's been staying pretty much flat. That's where we're projecting it, and that makes it the overwhelming amount. Now, we are getting revenue in open enrollment, but it's about roughly 148,000 a year. So a lot less than the 1.3 million going out. Supplies and materials. Supplies and materials overall are remaining pretty level, reflect throughout the overall forecast. We have some inflation built into this at 5% each year. This looks at maintenance supplies, student supplies, fuel, numerous items in here. but we've been holding pretty good on that and haven't seen any huge jumps. Obviously, we had a jump in the 17, 18, but we had the Panther Power, which we just talked about, and internet started, so we saw expenditures of that in 18 for the online curriculum and so on. Here's what I want to talk about capital outlay. Capital outlay, you see a big jump in 18 as compared to prior years. One being the administration building, the building purchase, and then also the renovation costs that are in there. Roughly $900,000 of the renovation cost is in the general fund, but it's split up between the 2 fiscal years because the work will be going over from this fiscal year to the next. So I got about a third of it, 300 in the current year and 600,000 going into 2019. When we get into 2021 and 22, we get back to more of the historical levels of where we've been in the past. So you should see that drop back down. Next one, intergovernmental debt. That was actually years ago, if you can see it there, that was our debt we had borrowed when we were in fiscal emergency. Obviously, we don't project that anytime soon. Other objects also very flat. If you look at the next one here, overall, this is mainly property tax collection fees we get from the county auditor for essentially administration of collecting and paying out the funds to the district. So that's pretty much flat. Don't have to worry about that too much. The next one, other financing uses. Don't plan on having. We had the advancement back in 2016, but unprojected at the moment. And the next thing you look at is the forecast comparative. This is comparing May of 17 to May of 18. You can see some differences. We went up a little bit in revenue, which was nice, but our expenditures also went up. Main reason mostly for the expenditure increases is, like I said, the building renovation costs, and we actually purchased 6 additional buses when we actually had 4 originally budgeted back in the May forecast. If you look at this one, there's about a 2.9% difference in fund balance, but if you actually compare the October of 17, which is this current fiscal year, to this forecast, it's only about 1.9% different overall in the ending fund balance. So very, very, very close to October's forecast. Like I said, we just had different additional expenditures, and like I said, we had some additional revenue, which was nice also. Investment revenue is up this year, which is good, with one, having cash on hand, and then 2, interest rates have gone up, essentially. So we're earning a little bit more than what we did before, which is nice. And then the last page is actually just the 5-year forecast itself. This is the detailed version of what that first financial statement was. And like I said, it shows overall where we're going to be out in the fiscal year 22. If you look at toward the bottom, if you can scroll just a little bit. If you look at the bottom in the last year, you see the $5.4 million at the bottom. That's the renewal for the emergency levy. So you can see we're roughly at $3.9 million after the renewal. Prior to the renewal, though, if you had no renewal, you're about $1 million, just a little over $1 million on line 7.02. About $1 million negative in FY22. So like I said, we're going through 18 through 22. We start to eat into that fund balance each year just because of stagnant revenue growth as compared to increasing expenditures, which is more so for us in a lot of districts just because of the growth we're experiencing.
And the 3.9 would run us how long?
3.9 million? Less than a month. Yeah, that's why we're running about 4.4 million a month.
Yeah, I was going to say we're 50, 60.
Yeah, so yeah, that's less than a month. Yeah, it is kind of mind-boggling that I'm a relative fixed range month.
Even if you pass the levy bill, that's going to offset it. It's 3.9, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's the levy passed.
That's what the levy passed.
So what about 23? Does 23 go negative after that?
Yes, it would. I don't have numbers on here, but
So
yeah.
there can't be enough there.
Yeah. You would go in the negative from 23 if you just had
If they
anything.
do 22, it's 23.
So at some point in the very near future, the additional funds are going to be needed. If the growth continues
Yeah, beyond the
to
renewal.
keep up, there'll be the renewal plus additional funds. To stay positive.
Okay.
Like I said, once again, this is the May forecast. In June, I can put another one together, and it'd be different ones we don't know about right now. But this is everything we're aware of, what we're projecting, and where we're going to be in fiscal year 22.
All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any
I like how
questions?
you did this, the
Yes.
graphs.
Thank you. It's easy to look at.
It's much easier to
It's easier.
understand.
The executive
Thank you,
action.
Karen.
Oh,
All right, any questions? All right, roll call, please.
Mr. Haas?
Yes.
Mrs. Grice?
Yes.
Mr. Kamin?
Yes.
Mr. Siebert?
Yeah.
Mr. Hack?
Yes.
Thank you. Next, I ask for the board's approval of item C, contracts as listed.
Moved.
I'll say.
Mr. Rice?
This also includes the addendum. We'll go through real quick if you want. Do you have any questions? Do you have any questions?
I have one.
Yes.
The baseball, softball school boards, so they
Yes.
pay for with ad revenue. Um, Explain to me how that works. What, do we build the scoreboards and then when they get ads, they pay it back, or do?
It's a 50-50 split over the remaining term, so they build up, so I had conversation with Tiffany about this and Salty emails back and forth with side effects. They build up ad revenue, they sell the ads and everything, they take, of course. And I guess we have so much in surplus that they've had more revenue than they have expense, where it pays for the boards to be built, we have to install them, but they're building the boards for us.
Okay.
So there'll be no cost for the boards, but then for the next 10 years after that, it's gonna be a 50-50 split on the ad revenue. So any ads that they sell, side effects gets half the revenue, we get half the revenue.
And for baseball, softball, there will only be one, sorry.
No, I'm back here.
I was back to shaking my head, but yes, all of those things are true. And for baseball, softball, there will only be one camera at the bottom of each of those boards with advertising. So, and it'll be like I said,
Okay, so their side effects is building the scoreboards and then we are installing.
Correct, we're
Right.
still installing them, correct?
yes.
So we're responsible to install them, and then once all of that's done, then we split the cost for 10 years and we have revenue with them. Okay.
Just the revenue, yes.
Just the revenue, right?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Okay. Yeah, okay. Okay. Cover this, the addendum.
Fine, do it again.
If you want to touch base on it,
Sure.
I know it's a board.
Yep. On the addendum is Venture One Construction, that is for the Salem kitchen renovations. They were the low bidder at $214,500. That includes their base bid, also an alternate, I believe. Rachel's here. There she is. It also includes the doors, correct? The alternate one. So different doors putting into the national auction system that we have everywhere else.
Okay.
Where they from?
Venture, they're the ones doing
The most one.
the building there.
And they came in under budget on the.
Yeah, actually, the base bid was estimated to be by itself $225,000, and their bid for that and the alternate came under the base bid. So I was happy about it.
And Terry, we're paying for that out of food service funds.
Correct. That is not- that is not actually
Surplus,
operating
not going
funds.
back to operating.
Yeah, the overall
Yep,
operating.
all out of those six.
And you know what, I really want to give kudos to our kitchen board, because a lot of schools are in the red and they're,
Yeah, Rachel pays more attention than anyone else I've ever seen, food service director wise to the bottom line a little bit. She's very concerned about operating, what she is, she's an enterprise fund, and by definition, that's set up as like a business. You have to support your revenues, you have to support your expenditures. So she looks at the bottom line all the time, to make sure we're in good shape.
good job.
Thank
All right, thank you very much, yes, excellent. All right, any other questions? Okay, roll call, please.
Mrs. Grace?
Yes.
Mr. Kaminga? Yes. Mr. Seaver?
Yes.
Mrs. Jernae?
Yes.
Mr. Hollis?
Yes.
And last, I ask for the board's approval of the coordination.
Mr. Cummings?
Awesome.
Mrs. Grice? All right. You want to make any comments on that?
Yeah, it's a donation of a Ripton Standard and Gate Trainer to the Special Education Program here in Miami from Matt and Amber Shelton, and definitely greatly appreciated.
All right. Questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Kaminga?
Yes.
Mr. Seaver?
Yes.
Mrs. Jernae?
Yes.
Mr. Haas?
Yes.
Mrs. Grace? That's all I have, thank you.
Ask the board's approval for the personnel items listed under item A.
Mr. Nay? I'll second. Mr. Cummings? Any questions or comments?
Just accepting, I would recommend the board accept Mr. Loselli's retirement resignation with regret.
Yes.
And
I agree.
All right, roll call, please.
Mr. Seaver?
Yes.
Mrs. Jernae?
Yes.
Mr. Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Grice?
Yes.
Mr. Kareem?
Yes.
Thank you. I do think we have a couple of new employees sitting here, and I would like you to come up and introduce yourself.
You've got 3 minutes to tell us about yourself.
I'm Shannon, nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Thank you guys so much, I'm so excited.
Appreciate having you.
Thank you.
What grade?
Second grade.
Second grade.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you guys. Thank you.
And sign in, they sign in.
You can talk a lot about it.
2.5 more minutes.
Yep.
I'll get back to you. Thank you guys.
All right. Thank you.
Item B is recommendation for 2019-20 calendar. I would recommend the board approval of option 2 with draft calendar 2. After we went back and looked at this, after our hearing, we added another professional development day on October the 14th. So that will be a day the school is not in session, and we'll have an extra PE day in the calendar for our staff. And also give the students a break, because that's a pretty long run from August to November, so.
Any questions? All right, roll call, please.
Mrs. Janae?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Grice?
Yes.
Mr. Kareem?
Oh, stop. Yeah, we need a motion.
Oh, I'm
We need a
sorry.
motion, sorry.
I'll move.
Mr. Cremines? Yes. Thank you. Need a second.
So moved.
Okay, now we're ready to do the roll call.
Recall. Mrs. Janae?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Grice?
Yes.
Mr. Kareem?
Yes.
Mr. Seaver?
Yes.
Thank you.
That's the board's approval for item C, 2018-19, book title adoption.
I'll move.
Yes.
Second.
Mr. Siebert? I'd like to, Mr. Power and I had a conversation about this. I appreciate the, what was it, Lexile? Lexile. When I was talking to him, I said, you have to explain, because what they did with the books is they gave you the Lexile rating. And I said, so explain to me what that is. And he was,
But my teacher had reading that.
he went through the construction of paragraphs and how many words and the syllables, and I was like,
Did you get it?
I did, actually, I did. It was enough once he was, I said, I'm good, that's all I needed to know. So, that was very good. So. All
I think
right,
it was more than he ever needed to know.
way more than I ever needed to know. All right, roll call, please.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Grice?
Yes.
Mr. Kareem?
Yes.
Mr. Seaver?
Yes.
Mr. Janae?
Yes.
Thank you. I'd like to ask the board's approval for Resolution 18-006, OHSSA Resolution of Participation.
Okay, you're on F. Did you skip D and E?
No, I've got D.
D. I have D and
I
E.
have D. I have D and E.
Better.
D I have as the
How
maintenance
much you have on the
supervisor.
agenda?
Oh,
D.
it's not the third, but
Item D.
D is maintenance
Yes,
supervisor,
maintenance
director,
supervisor,
support services.
I ask your approval for that.
Go ahead and move.
Okay, Mr. Crane? Wayne, Mr. Siebert, seconds, all right. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Grice?
yes.
Mr. Kareem?
Yes.
Mr. Seaver?
Yes.
Mr. Janae?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes. And the next one is summer sport class.
I might be over there right
E.
now. Okay, item E, I ask your approval for. I'm not even going to read it. I'm just going to tell you what the
I'll
letter
move.
is.
All right, Mr.
Second.
Day, Mr. Cremines. All right.
Yes, I ran into a Lexile reading level problem on that.
I don't think Lexile has
Seven.
anything to do with that.
Seven camps, that's a lot of camps. Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Kareem?
Yes.
Mr. Seaver?
Yes.
Mr. Janae?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Grice?
Yes.
Ask the board's approval for item F, Resolution 18-006, OHSSA Resolution to participate.
I'll move.
Ms. Grice?
Second.
Mr. Cremines? questions, comments?
That's an annual resolution that we pass to belong to that organization.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Siebert,
Yes.
Mrs. Grenade,
Yes.
Mr. Haas,
Yes.
Mrs. Grice,
Yes.
Mr. Raines.
Yes. Thank you, that's all I have.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tyler. Okay, at this time, new business informational items are the first readings and your updated board policies, and I won't list those. You'll see those in your. And now at this time, we will entertain the Warren County Career Center report.
I don't have a report because our meeting is this Thursday, but we had a wonderful graduation. It was very well done. We got everybody through.
Was
so-
it 2017 or 18?
Oh, stop. And who told you, Mr. Sauer?
What did I tell him?
I saw you mess up, but I didn't say anything.
There was a scripted thing, so I stayed in there and I was reading my little part at the end, and it had 2017, and I stopped. I
No,
go,
you read it, and then.
I think that was Alexa reading
That
problem.
was
and I thought, it's not 2017.
Thank you, Ms. Grace.
No, you're quite welcome.
Okay. Our next board meeting is June 26th at 7 p.m. Here at the Media Center. Possibly by this time, we may have information back on the election. I think Mr. said that he might share some numbers with us on that, if there's information that we can pull together there. So.
I will also indicate that there's, I think, projected a work session to do board doc training an hour before the scheduled work meeting. So that will be a work session. There will be a public.
Mike and I really want to sit in that too, because it'll be,
Yeah.
It's 1 hour prior to the meeting.
Yes, sir.
Same place here?
here.
All right. Okay. Community comments on non-agenda items. Mr. Susan.
So I just wanted to speak briefly just on a couple points as it relates to the bond and moving forward. First, I just want to thank everyone, most of the people in the room in here really stepped up to help me out. At the point I came into this kind of beginning of the fourth quarter, or middle of the fourth quarter, to step up. I've not had a lot of experience in this, and with the narrow margin that we won by, I think I can pretty confidently say that if any one of the things that we attempted to do and accomplish hadn't happened, we probably would have got a different result. We did a couple things different, I think, than we've ever done before in a campaign. We really engaged social media to the point of a paid social media ad campaign. I think we ended up somewhere around 25 to 30,000 views on 3 informational videos that got put out. And the social media guy gave me numbers that there was some ridiculous number of like 250,000 impressions on Facebook, meaning it flashed before someone's eyes on a page. But from students on election day, vendors helping us with neighborhood blitzes, administration working polls, board members, in all facets. I got a tremendous outpouring of support, and it was pretty awesome. It was pretty cool to be part of that day. The second part of my thoughts or comments is more in the role of the advisory council, and being a part of that. Something we've been speaking about ongoing is how to engage and educate the community. And that's the thing I picked up the most in the last 2 months, is how disengaged and uninformed a large part of the community is. In the middle section of the community, I think that's the maybe, or an uninformed or undecided voter. When we look at what we're probably up against in the next 5 years, we're gonna need operating funds. We have to renew and hopefully make permanent the emergency levy, and maybe phase 2 of a bond. I don't think we can stop and support Little Miami schools can't be passive in that it doesn't do anything until the next issue. So what we're speaking about in advisory council, I just want to get you thinking about now that hopefully by fall we'll have more of a plan. The advisory council, support Little Miami schools, the board, administration, we have to become more active and visible, I think, in engaging and informing the community. So Randy and Bobby went with me to the Village of Morrow. Randy and Nancy went to a Harlan Township meeting. Greg and I went to Hamilton Township. But we need a structured presentation where we share good financial news and how well we spend tax dollars and things like Power Up that we're doing, how the bond's moving forward, and come up with a presentation and kind of do a roadshow around the community just ongoing, engaging any stakeholders that we can. and hopefully move the needle with that, chunk of people that are uninformed or undecided. Because I don't think with what will be coming in the future that we can afford to just kind of go to the sidelines and not be active for the next, year or 2 years before we go back to a voter. But hopefully by fall, we'll be able to come back to you a little bit more, maybe of a formal presentation of something we would envision, but just know that we'll be asking for some support and involvement of people kind of doing what we did, but that it'll be more on an ongoing basis in an effort to, inform the community. And then as we're looking at like the next operating levy, we can use those events to get input from people and talk about the size and the type of issues and what would people likely support, because those were the hardest questions I got from people the last couple of months is, when's the operating coming, what's it going to be, how big is it going to be, and I tried to be transparent and speak to some of those things, but we'll have a lot coming at us in, probably a 3 to 7 year window when we look at phase 2 of a bond, renewing the emergency and operating needs at some point. But thanks to everyone for their support and, narrow margin, but I guess a win's a win. So,
That's right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Coates? Okay, at this time, I need a motion to move into executive session to consider the employment of a public employee or official. Mrs. Journay? Ms. Grice? Roll call, please.
Mr. May?
Yes.
Mr. Haas?
Yes.
Mr. Rice?
Yes.
Mr. Reeves?
Yes.
Mr. Seaver?
Yes.
All right, thank you. So, a few minutes and then we'll